All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, folks. Welcome to those that are online. I'm going to be trying to manage two different audiences here. So I have about 26 people online, and there's a room full of people here. So if you're online, I will sometimes look at you, and I will sometimes look at you, and I will sometimes look at the screen. So those of you guys that are on Zoom, what you see hopefully on the screen with the screen share here, you will see a little bit more, but the folks in the room can see it here as well. If you are joining us on Zoom, if you could do me a favor and mute yourself so that we don't get any extra noise. I have my laptop is here in front of me, and I will, by the way, hang on to your questions, please. There will be a time for questions at the end. So if you can remember them, hang on to them. If you're absolutely desperate, you're like, I have to leave in 5 minutes, I have a question, go ahead and interrupt, that's fine. Online, that's gonna be a little harder because I can't see you guys raise hands necessarily. So try to hang on. I have been doing this trip for a while, and I generally will anticipate what most of the questions are because I've probably heard almost all of them before, but you never know. There may be something new tonight. Welcome. I'm Dave Ricketts. I get to lead our MVPC Mexico trip. This is my 16th year doing so for this church. I have worked with Amore Ministries for about 20 years, though, 4 years at a previous church down in San Diego, where I was for a number of years. And then when I came up here, this church already had a long-standing relationship with the Amore Ministries. This is our 31st year as MVPC of working with Amore Ministries. So we're glad to be doing this. This is Amore's 42nd or 43rd year as they're doing things. So we've been doing this quite a while, and we are really glad to be doing this again. COVID was a major pain in the butt for all of us, but especially on this trip. Like literally one of the worst days of my life was when I had to tell the student leaders that were leading the 2020 trip that we were canceling, because we canceled the week before, like the shutdown happened and everything else happened, because we're like, there is no way we can safely take a group of students over the board. We had no idea what was going on at this point. We didn't know how contagious it was. I was like, they were holding people at like military bases. You remember that? Like people would get off the cruise lines and get in the military base. And I'm like, we're going to get down there. A kid's going to get the flu. We don't know if it's COVID or not. And we're all going to be trying to go back across the border. We're going to be thrown into a military base in San Diego for who knows how. No, I was like, there's no way we can do this right now. So we are, hang on, I got people joining still online, and I have to, unfortunately, there's a waiting room and I have to let you in. So if you're just joining us, welcome. I'm gonna kind of talk through the trip here. So as I said, we have been working with the Amore Ministries for about 30 years. Now, and this was one of our first trips. This is Mike McClanahan, who used to be in my role here, who's now down in San Diego. And weird coincidence, he moved from here to Solana Beach Press in San Diego, where I was director of student ministries. And so I was his kids' youth pastor, and then came back up here and took his position. So he started this trip in 1990, working with the Amore Ministries. And we have kept it going since then. I've led the trip for the last 16 years. As I said, we have built over 400 houses in that time. So there's a lot of time and energy that we have spent down there over the years. And the good news is that in those years, we have taken tens of thousands, or well, at least thousands, probably not tens of thousands of high school students down to Mexico and brought them home, which is really the important part, to bring them home safely. It's one thing to get them there to Mexico. It's another thing to bring them home. And we have done that successfully. Let me tell you a little bit about our trip as well. So April 1st through the 8th, spring break. Last year, we shortened the trip by a day, went Monday through Friday. This year, we're going back to our normal trip length, which is, we went Sunday through Friday. This year, we're going Sunday through Saturday. We technically leave on Saturday, You will be arriving here on about 11 p.m. We will meet here. You will all kind of make your way into the sanctuary here with your students as you drop them off. You're welcome to drop them off in the parking lot if you want to. If you want to come in and get a kiss and a hug, we try to have them say goodbye to you appropriately before they leave, even though they don't want to. So we do try to do that. We leave here and it's an overnight bus trip down to San Diego. The bus drivers we've hired professional big coach bus drivers. They sleep all day long here in Walnut Creek before we leave. They come up a day early and then they drive overnight. They love it because there's no other traffic on the road. There's nothing to distract them. They're drinking their coffee all the way down. They will take a couple of pit stops on the way down that are required by law. And students are welcome to bring their pillow on the bus, bring a blanket on the bus, whatever they'd like. Well, not whatever they'd like, but within reason to keep them comfortable there. We have had students like, I'm just going to take an Ambien and go to bed, or Benadryl or whatever, and I'm going to get knocked out and just sleep all the way to San Diego, and that is totally fine. They will then wake up kind of in San Diego where we will feed them some breakfast. They meet in a big parking lot where Amore Ministries kind of meets us all there. And then we check in with Amore, and Amore will then escort them over the border. They all have to fill in paperwork as they get to the border. It's a bit of a pain in the butt process, but we're trying to work to expedite all of that as well. And they will get down to camp, spend the whole week down into camp with us down there, and I'll go over that a little bit more. We will then return on Saturday at 10 p.m. That's approximate. On Teamwork Night that I'll tell you about in just a minute, I will give you more information about the blog that we keep all week long, that especially as we come back up from San Diego, I try to keep you updated. Like, hey, we're all at dinner in Kettleman City, still looking to be at home at 10 o'clock, or a couple years ago, we had a flat tire on a bus. We're going to be delayed. So stay tuned for more updates, kind of a thing. We returned to Miramani just because they have a very big, open, lit parking lot. We tried my first year. We returned back here. And you are all so excited to see all of your kids coming home that you fill and clog our entire parking lot and the buses couldn't get in. Which is why we go down there. It's huge and wide open and lit. It's really easy. We've been doing that for the last 15 years. So we arrived back there to Miramani on Saturday. Registration is open through March 1st. March 1st is what we call Teamwork Night, which is when all the students that are registered will come together. They will find out just before that what team they are placed on. I'll tell you about that in just a minute, but they all come together here. We would like to have at least one of you join them here as a parent. We will give you more information. We'll talk through a packing list. Our medical team will be there to give you more information as you have questions about that and kind of talk through some of that as well. So we'd love everyone, all students and at least one adult to be there on the 1st. We understand not everybody can make it. Students will have soccer games or basketball games or whatever. We understand that. It's unfortunate, and we understand you will have commitments as well. Trying to let you know far enough in advance that that date is important for us, that you can join us there. Trip is open to all high school students and adults, meaning you. We would love to have you come join us. This is a picture of our adult team from several years ago. You will see people with gray beards and not gray beards and no beards at all. So it is open to all high school kids. They're each put on a separate team. And then it's open to you as adults. I would love to have an adult team come down with us. You would build a house right alongside students. There is no building experience needed. A lot of these folks had never built a home before in their entire lives, but can come down and sort of have an experience alongside your child, but you will see them, if you're lucky, once a day, right? It is not, and I have a lot of fear from high school kids. They're like, no way are you coming on this trip. I want to go down and have a good time. I don't want to see you at all. And the honest truth is they won't. You'll see each other like across camp, but you would have an experience sort of parallel to what they're experiencing. If you want to see them or they want to see you, you're there and available. But I've been with both of my kids. In fact, the kid kneeling down in the front with the blue gloves on is my oldest son. He was on the adult team that year because he was in college at that point. My youngest son was on that trip as well, actually. So they both were there, and I had a great time with both of them, but I saw them very seldomly. So here's a little more information about the trip. So students are assigned to a team, and we literally do it by random draw. So I will meet, the teams are by colors. So your kid may come home and they go, I'm on the blue team or on the red team or the tie-dye team, or we've had like splatter team, we've had tuxedo team, we've had all kinds of various colors and stripes. We've had zebra, we've had gold. Quite often the teams are a little more normal than that, and they're like, I'm a teal team or we're the pink team or things like that. So they're each given a color. They're led by a student leader, sometimes a pair of student leaders. Those are seniors that have been less trip before, that know what they're doing. And then each team is also assigned 2 adult coaches that are there, one male and one female, so that everyone feels like there's someone there. That adult's role is not to build the house. That adult's role is to help coach the students in how to build the house. So each team then builds a house from the ground up with hand tools. No power tools are allowed. I will confess, I usually will bring down like one set of battery operated power tools, just in case we need to like do some surgery on a house or something like that to get it fixed. Very seldom do I have to pull it out, but it is nice to have just in case. Every once in a while we have to, like, people want to build a house that they say, hey, we want to move this, or we're going to extend the roof another foot to attach to this roof. We're like, well, yeah, but you got these 3 rafts. How do we get those off? So I'll pull out the Sawzall or something like that. So this is an Amore Ministries rule as well, no power tools, because they just discovered that it's a lot harder to cut off your thumb with a handsaw. It's easy to do with a power saw. It is very hard to do with a handsaw. So each team builds a house from the ground up. They will pour concrete foundation. It is then a stick frame, meaning 2x4s, wood framed house. With then we put up tar paper and baling wire and chicken wire on the outside of that, and then it gets a coat of stucco on top of that chicken wire. So lots of concrete and a little bit of wood they get to play with. A little more trip information. We stay at Amore's camp just outside of Tijuana. I will show you a map in just a minute, but this is a picture of our camp. Those are our tents there from a couple years ago that you can see there. And we stay outside of their camp. The camp is in a rural area and is completely fenced and guarded 24 hours a day. I will show you again a map in just a minute here. We are usually not the only church in camp. Spring break week is a very busy week for Amore Ministries, and they quite often will have multiple camps, multiple churches in camp with us at the same time. Sometimes that's really fun. Sometimes it's annoying. One of my really good friends is the pastor at Community Presbyterian Church over in Danville. We quite often go at the same time. And their tradition is they wake their students up at 6 a.m. with really, really loud music, which means guess who else wakes up at 6 a.m. with really, really loud music? So all meals, meaning a hot breakfast, a hot dinner, and then a sack lunch, are provided by a organization called La Cocina, which is Spanish for the kitchen, and they're affiliated with Amore. It's actually quite often the pastors' wives that kind of help Amore, that are on Amore's board. These ladies got together and put together their own catering business and make our food for us. So it's all authentic, delicious food that we get to eat each and every day. This is then a Google image of Tijuana. You can see Tijuana. I'm going to point with the pointer. See Tijuana right over here. This is sort of the main part of Tijuana, right over in here. It does extend over to this part. This is the very industrial part of Tijuana over on as you go further east. The cluster of yellow and blue down here are house build locations where we have built in previous years. The red dot way over here is where Amor Ministries camp is. So you can see we are kind of in between Tijuana and Tecate there, out in the middle of nothing. And in fact, this is a Google image. You're welcome to do this at home. You can Google Amor Hacienda Camp and you pull up this exact same picture. So this is a picture of camp. This is a Google Earth view of that spot. And you can see, I think here, if you can see with my pointer, this is a road. There's a fence running all along this road, along this back line here. And then along this other road over here and all the way around. So there's kind of camping area here. These square structures are the showers right here. And then we usually camp up in this section up in here. We kind of put all of our tents in this section over here. Like I said, it is guarded 24 hours a day. So there's a fence all the way around. There's a gate at the entrance right over here, right across from this church. That gate is guarded and the gate is locked all the time. To get in, you have to have an Amor pass on your car. And then as you come in, you have to hand them or tell them what number tag you're on, because as you leave, you hand them, they give you these tags that are numbered and you can say, here's my number, I'm number 2. And as you leave and as you come back in, you get the tag back. So they know exactly how many cars from camp are out in the community. We are never out at night. I told a mom earlier today on the phone, the only reason I would be out on the roads driving anywhere at night is if I need to do a run to the hospital, which means I'm driving over the border. I've had to do that twice in the 16 years that I've done it. Both times were for an adult. I've never had to do it for a student. So we bring a full medical team down with us. And I'll talk about that in just a moment here. So that's where our camp is. Some pictures of camp and the food that we get served. Some of the students help serve meals there, and it is delicious food. So it's, as I said, very authentic. A little more trip information. The team build sites are all determined by Amor Ministries. They have a group of pastors and their staff that work to get to know the families in various communities. Quite often it's sort of the community that pastor works in. We're near their church, so they get to know these families. They do not have to be Christian families, but they have to have a couple qualifications. They have to own their property or at least be in process of purchasing it. So in other words, it's not a rental thing where they're actually going to build then for a landlord that will buy several of these properties, get an Amor house built on it, and then jack the rent way up, right? This is all about helping people get out of the poverty cycle. So we want them to own the property themselves and be able to build on it themselves. And then the family has to be willing to kind of guard the property, especially in the evening, so that stuff doesn't get stolen, things like that. So team build sites are determined by Amor. I wish I could tell them where I wanted to build. You saw how far away some of our build sites are, which is like an hour drive through Tijuana morning traffic, which is no fun. Last year, they put us really, really close, and I'm hoping and praying that happens again. Teams travel to build sites in a caravan of buses. We contract with Amor to provide us buses. They guide us out to the job sites every day. The buses will sometimes wait for us there. Sometimes they will go off and do other things and then come back and pick us up in the afternoon and drive us back to camp. But Amor is kind of with us that entire time. Each team has about 12 to 15 students, as I've said, and 2 adult coaches. As I said before, we assign your kids what team they are. They don't get to choose that. And if your son or daughter has a best friend that's coming on the trip, chances are they will not be on the same team if their friendship is widely known among other people. Here's why we do that. We try to have like boyfriends and girlfriends not on the same team. We try to have definitely no brothers and sisters or brothers and brothers. If one of our adults on that team has kids, no adults and kids sibling, no None of that, no relationships, because those teams, we want them all to kind of have a fresh start and be able to build a friendship from the ground up. It is awkward for the first time they meet because they're looking around the room going, I don't know any of you people. I maybe recognize a couple of you from school, but beyond that, I don't know you. What is amazing is at the end of the week, mark me on this, check me and see if I'm wrong. We will do this thing called Mexico Sunday. I'll tell you about that in a minute. We're all in the sanctuary. We've all come home from the trip. Kids are all wearing their team shirts. They will stand up and it's like a free open mic where they can say whatever they want, which is dangerous, I recognize, but we trust them. And they will stand up there and say, I had the best team ever. Every single one of them will say, I had the best team ever. And what we found is those teams actually develop a much closer relationship quite often than kids that have gone to school with the same people for the last 10 years. So the teams bond together really well throughout the week. Now, because we put them in a somewhat uncomfortable position on teams with people they don't know, they will be on a team. Each team will have seniors, juniors, sophomores, and freshmen. There will be probably a pretty even mix of guys and girls. And there will be people from all the local schools, probably on every team. We try to mix people up as best we can. Because we do that on teams in camp, in their own tents, they can room and be in a tent with whoever they want that's of the same gender. Clarify and qualify that there. All right. So you can be in a tent with 3 of your best friends, no more than 4 people in a tent, please, because we want to, if somebody gets sick, it means that whole tent will probably get sick. And in years past, I've had groups of like 12 guys in a tent before. It just doesn't go well for me trying to get them all to go to sleep at night. For them, they lose all of their stuff and they end up with all of their friends. Anyway, 4 people in a tent, but you can tent with anyone that you would like to. Within some reasonable limits. All right. Let me keep going here. Other information. Amore has staff and then volunteers. These are a couple of volunteers that have been working with us the past several years. The big guy there is Jono. He comes from Australia. He tries to find out when our church is going down and will fly over and join us in Mexico specifically for that week, or we'll try to be there for a couple of weeks, but make sure that we are there at the same time. We also have some support teams. We have a medical team. I have a doctor who comes with us, Brent Levenfeld, who works for Kaiser, will be down with us. I have a firefighter paramedic who was also a Navy, not a SEAL, but he was EOD specialist, so highly trained guy, knows what he's doing, will be down there with us. Quite often we have other medical personnel that are just kind of joining us in camp. We have a tool crew that drives around, visits every site every day. Hey, do you have enough shovels? Do you have enough hammers? What else do you need? And then staff. There's myself. I'm hoping to hire a new student ministry director to work with me. And then we'll have musical people. We also have a full media team that's taking pictures, taking video throughout the week as well. COVID. I still have to talk about this. We recommend that all participants be fully vaccinated. Boosters recommended. It is not a requirement this year. Last year, our medical team felt like we needed to require that. It is not required. It is recommended this year. But if you're not vaccinated, most likely our team doctor, Brent Levenfeld, will contact you just to find out as well, like, have you had COVID? How recently? Like, how immune are you? And honestly, I'm less concerned about students bringing COVID down and infecting all of us. That happened last year. I don't know if you had kids that were on our trip last year or heard about it. I literally was we were all in our sanctuary the day after we got home for Mexico Sunday. They are all sitting shoulder to shoulder. They'd just been on buses coming back. And we found out that a kid tested positive on Sunday morning, right before our church service started. So I had to go run and find masks for all the students. They were all wearing masks then for that morning. We had a few other people that got sick as well. But it's less about our team and more about the families we're building for. We have infrastructure. We can deal with it as we get home. Even if you get really sick, we've got great medical care. The families we're building for down in Mexico do not have that. And so we just want to be, out of an abundance of caution, be careful for them down there as well. As I said, we have a medical team with us. They have enough stuff with them. They can do minor field surgery. They don't, but they could down there. If somebody gets sick down there, our doctor will probably try to diagnose it and treat it. They bring medicines down with them and things like that. If that happens, you will get a phone call either during the trip, or if it's like, hey, I think this kid has a minor sinus infection, I'm going to put him on an antibiotic for the next couple of days. Then when your kid gets home, the doctor will call you and inform you about what's going on. A couple other protocol. In tents, in camp, 4 people to a tent. Any positive results in camp, and we're not going to randomly test people, but if somebody is sick, we will have COVID tests there and test you. If you're positive, it'll result in isolation, and we will call you and let you know. It does not mean you have to plan to pick your kid up at the airport. It just means we will isolate them. We have several isolation tents, and Amor has an isolation location that we can use as well down there, and we'll put a mask on them and bring them home on the bus with everyone else, or we may put them in a private car with a few less people at that point. We do have a hand washing station in camp with clean water as well that just has cut down a lot on any illness that gets spread. We have still had illnesses like norovirus, like ran through our camp one year, which was really no fun for an awful lot of people. So let me talk about safety. And while I do this, I'm going to go to the chat. I'm going to put up a couple of documents here for you guys to see. There is one. If you are in the room and you did not grab documents at the back of the room and would like to, now would be a chance to do that. So there should be 2 documents now in the chat, one called Amor statement regarding something or other, and another one, safety in Mexico. So let me, I'm going to refer you, I'm not going to read through this, but this document that I've written called Safety in Mexico talks about that. And again, those of you guys online should be able to grab this and read it in the chat. If you're not able to, for whatever reason, you can shoot me an email or shoot me a text. My cell number is 9. I'll put my cell number in the chat if you can chat with me or give me a call if you have questions as well afterwards. But I encourage you to read this. A couple of just sort of basic things about this. We have a very long history of working with Amor. I trust them implicitly. If I didn't trust them, I would not work with them. I recognize I am taking your most precious thing in your life across an international border to a country where safety is maybe less of an or more of an issue than it is here in the United States. I've had several people say, well, could you like not go to Mexico? Could you do something local? I'm like, you want me to take your kids to Oakland? Like, that might be more dangerous to go try to do something there than it would be for me to go down to Mexico in a lot of ways. So I have never felt unsafe in Mexico. Amor does a really good job of taking care of us while we're down there. They vet all the sites that we build. They check all these families. If at any point they felt like we were unsafe for whatever reason, they would evacuate us. And that is, I'm giving you this is from Amor's website. I found this recently. I didn't hear about it, but this isn't a statement that Amor put out about an incident that happened this last summer, where I guess there was some violence in and around Tijuana because a cartel guy had been arrested. And so members of his cartel were like burning cars and things to cause havoc and try to get him released. It didn't work, but Amor was in consultation with the police, and the police said, hey, why don't you, it'd be best for your team to probably go back to the United States. So on Saturday, they told the team, hey, we're gonna evacuate you guys and send you home a couple days early, and they did. So I appreciate that Amor is willing to take those steps to keep safety as their #1 priority. They know if anything happens on one of these trips, no one's ever gonna trust them again to come with them. So they recognize safety is a really top priority for both us as a church and for Amor Ministries. As I said, the camp is guarded 24 hours a day. The guards are unarmed. I've had a lot of parents like, why don't they like get guns down there? Amor does not want their guards armed because they don't want people trying to take out some of those guards to get weapons. So they trust that these guards, and again, we've never had any problems while we're down there at camp. Let me keep going. We stay on top of the U.S. State Department bulletins and warnings as well. I will let you know, well, it says on here, currently U.S. State Department encourages travelers to quote unquote, reconsider travel to the Baja Peninsula. I dove a little deeper into that this last week. Most of the issues are related to Mexicali, and there are no travel restrictions for any U.S. employees near Tijuana. In fact, this is what their website says. There are no other travel restrictions for U.S. government employees in Baja California State. These include high traffic tourism areas of border and coastal communities such as Tijuana, Ensenada, and Rosarito. So U.S. State Department feels pretty good about that border region, which is where we spend all of our time. I have been to Mexicali before. It's a little rougher than Tijuana. So they usually, by the way, right before spring break, the U.S. State Department quite regularly releases another statement about, hey, be careful if you're traveling to Mexico. And it's targeted actually at college students that go over the border at spring break to go down to party in Tijuana. I have seen some of that. Well, it's a different story for another time. I picked a guy up that had been mugged down there and got him back over the border with like zero. He lost his wallet, he'd lost everything, and didn't know where he was, didn't know where his friends were. His friends abandoned him in downtown Tijuana in a bar. And I was able to drive him, and he was like, well, I think we came down this road. I'm like, where'd you come from? I found the place where his friends were and dropped him off. It was kind of one of those amazing God stories. All right, other important info. Passports are required. When you register, we do ask you to list the expiration date. I think that still happens on your passport. That is not because I care about it. It's simply to force you to check the expiration date. It only has to be valid through April 8th, 2023. You don't have to worry about the 6-month rule. That is only if you're flying. That's not for ground travel. They can have the passport card. They can have their paper passport. Either one will work. And that piece of paper or that card is their ticket to get on the bus. So when they show up here, they do not pack that. And I will go over this several other times in emails with them, on teamwork night with you. They bring their passport with them in their backpack. They will hand that passport to their team leader that will have a large manila envelope with a team roster on the front. Student leader will check off, all right, I got Tim's passport here, check. And then when that team is totally done, they have all the passports. They take that on the bus. They give it to one of the adult leaders on the bus. And then when we get down into camp, that adult leader takes it off the bus and hands it to our medical personnel. That medical personnel stores that in a locked box that stays in camp. We had an incident one year where it was in the back of a car and someone broke into that car and stole all of our passports. We fortunately were able to get them all back except one. That's a whole nother story, again, for another time, though. If you want to know more about it, feel free to ask me. It's kind of another crazy God story. But they stay in camp where a medical team knows exactly where they are. And that is because, I don't know if you've ever seen a tent where 4 teenage girls or boys are living. It is not the cleanest environment by a Wednesday afternoon, right? And so if someone gets sick or hurt on a work site, my medical team needs to know where that person's passport is so we can get them over the border and get them medical help without having to tear through their entire tent to try to find one passport. We know what team they're on. We know where that is exactly. We pull it out and we get them to the hospital. So please check your passports and their expiration dates. It is currently, I believe, about a 6-week wait to get a new passport if you need to renew. So you have plenty of time. Start that process now. Come on, there we go. Parents will be included in one additional team meeting. The teams will get together several times before the trip, and one of those times you will be invited to meet with the other parents on the team, so you get a chance to get to know the student leader that will be on the team, the adult coaches that will be on the team, and the other parents that are on the team with your son or daughter. And scholarships are available for this trip. The cost continues to creep up. I recognize that every year. I do our absolute best to hold it as cheap as I possibly can. Just to give you one bit of information, each coach bus, we take 54, 55 passenger coach buses from here all the way down. They go through the border and take us all the way into Mexico to the camp. Each bus is $16,000. So and that's to pay for gas, driver, the whole deal. And I can't do it cheaper. I've looked into like, can we charter a whole Southwest flight? That's more than $300 per person, by the way, just to do that. So we do have generous people in our church that recognize how important this trip is. We never want money to be a reason somebody can't join, including you guys. If you're like, I can send my kid, I would love to come, but there's no way we can afford $2,000. Understand that. We have people that will give scholarships. If you would like to join us on a trip, glad to have you. And we can do either a partial scholarship, full scholarship. If you want to do payments over months, we're glad to work that out with you. We recognize this is an expensive deal that we've got going here. By the way, this picture is the US border, and that's the border line that our students wait in. And the reason I say that is because a reminder for your students to pack light. They have to carry their luggage over the border, both directions. So as we go into Mexico, all luggage comes off the bus. They have to carry it through the Mexico border, and then they put it back on the bus. Same as we go through from Mexico to the US, they wait in this long line. Last year when we came home on Friday, it was a 3.5-hour border wait just at the border. And we stood in the blazing hot sun, and it was no fun at all. So pack light, and I'll tell your students that several other times. Our trip does have a spiritual component. This is a church, but you do not have to believe what we believe to join us on this trip. This trip is intentionally open to anyone that believes kind of anything. We never want a student to feel excluded because they don't believe what we believe. The only time that we will do something that would be a little bit exclusive is on the last night. We invite students that have a Christian faith to take communion. Now, there's a chance for everyone comes forward as a team, like the whole blue team will come forward and kind of be in a line. There's some bread, there's a cup of grape juice that they take the bread and dip it in. And then the next thing is this key ceremony. Because part of what we do, and a big part of what we do, is build a house for a family. And in the final thing that we do for the families, we dedicate that house and we give them a key to their home. The reason that's significant is because a lot of these homes that we build for, there's zero security at all. A lot of times I've seen blankets hanging in doorways as their door, and now they have a door that locks, that provides security. They can leave during the day and not worry about people breaking into their home. So we give the family a key on a keychain as part of that dedication ceremony of their house for them. So we give each student, I've worked with, there's a locksmith that mails me a whole bunch of keys that he's taken from like that year. And so we take each of those and kind of string them up as a necklace, and each student will get a key to who, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's your house, I don't know, but that is just kind of a memento of the trip and of that experience. So there is something when everybody comes forward for communion, there's a chance that they can pass on communion. There's no obligation to take that. If they're not ready, fine. But everyone can come forward and at least grab a key at that point. All right. Other important information. This is what our sanctuary looks like on Mexico Sunday. I will go over some packing list items with you on teamwork night. But one thing that I will recommend, if you haven't purchased it right yet, if you have like a freshman or sophomore and that you think they're going to be coming on this trip, or if you have younger kids, buy a good quality tent. And when I say a good quality tent, like get one that has some aluminum poles without, like the fiberglass ones, we get really strong winds down there. I don't know if you remember some of the pictures, but there's mountains nearby and then it's really flat, and it's flat all the way out to the ocean. So we get this strong westerly wind. Remember in springtime here, right? We get those winds that come off the ocean. Same thing down there in Mexico, but we will get 50 to 60 mile an hour winds and they will break tents. We have people that stay in our camp throughout the week during the day. And if winds get really strong, they will actually go and flatten tents so that poles don't break. So you can either buy or rent. REI rents great quality tents. Sports Basement rent great quality tents. If you don't want to spend money on a tent, just go rent one and then get a good sleeping bag. I prefer a mummy style bag, and I would recommend one that's rated to about 30 degrees. I have had 1 year, and it was only once, where we woke up on the last morning and it was really cold the night before. And we woke up and looked at the mountains around and there was snow down halfway down those mountains. So it was sub-freezing for most of the night where we were. Now you're in a tent with several other people, so it's going to be warmer there, but to have a good quality sleeping bag makes all the difference. So I would recommend those two things. Other items to bring, a sun shower, which is I meant to bring one in, I'm sorry. It's a black, typically plastic bag with a hose and a nozzle at one end. And you open the bag up, you fill it with water. And what you do is you leave it in the sun all day long, and the sun warms up that water. Especially when we're done, like I've had sun showers at over 100 degrees before, and you're like, it's too hot. And then you hang that bag in the shower facility, and I'm putting that in quotes if you can't see me online, which is a large concrete block structure with nails at the top of a 2x4 where you can hang this bag, and then you kind of squat down under the shower nozzle and spray yourself with a little bit of water. Buy yourself a sun shower. They're called camp showers as well. Amazon has a ton of them. Other local retailers like Big Five will sell them as well. And then personal tools. Go to Bill down at Ace Hardware. I will go down and see him later this week and let him know, hey, Mexico's coming. You might want to get your tools out. He will have a whole end cap with, here's a couple of hammers that are great. Here's a couple of screwdrivers, and here's some other things that you might need. He knows the tool list of personal tools that we need. And I will go over all of this again on teamwork night a month before we leave, 6 weeks before we leave, all right? So don't stress about it yet. They will need money for 3 meals on the road as we come back. So 3 meals? I'm thinking that through again. I take that back. It is 2 meals on the road now because we provide breakfast for them. So it's just lunch and dinner on the way home. So amend that. And then Mexico Sunday, where you are welcome to come to church that day, and it will look something like this, is April 16th. The day that we get back is the next Sunday is Easter. So we're not doing it that day. We'll do it the following Sunday. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. Here's some other important info. Please do not look too closely at the faces on, I don't know if you, I use Canva to design, and they have this new, like, hey, tell us what you're looking for and we'll AI together an image for you. So I said, I want a student choir on the beach. And this is what they came up with. And I don't know where they pulled the faces from, but as you get closer to it, it's really kind of frightening. I don't know what Canva did with that. Campo Choir, if any of your kids are involved in Campo Choir, they are doing a tour to Hawaii the week before this. So they will arrive home on Sunday afternoon at about 3 o'clock to SFO. If your kid would like to come, or your kid has friends that are doing this choir tour that would like to come to Mexico, we can make that available to them. They would simply fly down, and I will book the flights, and families can reimburse us for that. I'm going to try to get the cheapest one available. It will be Monday morning, so they can come home, shower, change. Their luggage will already be packed with us. And then I'm assuming parents can work to shuttle kids together to the Oakland airport, fly down to San Diego. I will pick them up then at the San Diego airport and drive them over the border and get them to our camp by Monday late afternoon, well before dinner, and they will then be with us for the rest of the week. I've had kids do that in the past, and it has worked really, really well. So it should not be an issue, but you're welcome to contact me for any other information on that. All right. Now, question time. And if you are online, if you're on Zoom and have a question, try to use the hand raise feature, and that should pop you to the top of the list that I can see here. And then you can unmute yourself, ask a question. I'm going to start here in the room, and hopefully I will repeat whatever question people have so that you guys online can hear it as well. Questions? Since I've been talking for the last 50 minutes. Correct. Yes, I do not provide tent. So the question is, if they're going to be in a tent together, do you just coordinate with the other parents to buy a tent or rent a tent or whatever? And the answer is yes. We don't provide tents. So we're going to assume that someone in that group either will have a tent or can provide a tent for that whole group. I will recommend that before the trip and before you drop that tent off here, we have all luggage dropped off the Wednesday before we leave so that we have all the luggage here. We take some of it down with an advanced team that leaves on Saturday. And then as the coach buses pull up before you guys are all here on Saturday night, we've taken and loaded the rest of that luggage underneath those coach buses. So when you guys get here, the buses are loaded and ready to go. Please have your kids set up the tent so that when they get down there in Mexico, and we've had times where the border wait has taken a long time to get into Mexico, and they've gotten down there at like nighttime almost, like sun is setting and they're trying to set up a tent now in the dark. And having never had it done before, it can be really frustrating for them. So please have them pull the tent out, set it up. We will have extra stakes. We have these big nails. If you want to go purchase like something at Ace Hardware or at Osh, so these giant nails that work great as tent stakes, because as they get those little aluminum ones, and if they don't hammer them just right, they bend and then they are stuck. All right. Other questions in the room? And then Alvin, I see your question. I'll get to you in just a second. Yes.
How do you handle kids who bring medication?
How do I handle kids that need to bring medication? There are two options. A, we strongly encourage kids, if they are on regular medication, to stay on it. So for instance, like if they're on Adderall, if they have ADHD or something like that, Mexico is not the time to take a break because they're not in school. I've had students do that in the past. You actually need to be maybe more focused than at school down in Mexico to build a house and to read plans and be able to read little numbers on a tape measure and things. So two options: either if your student, if you feel like they are mature enough to handle that on their own and can take that on their own and stay on that, great. They can just bring it themselves. If you would like our medical team to take that, you can just let the medical team know. Your kid can have it in a Ziploc bag. Either you can hand it to the medical team as you leave, or your student can go take it to the medical team as they get into camp with their name on it and say, here's my meds. I will come in the morning and at nighttime to get these things. And they'll work that out with them. A little cold, Patty? Sorry. Other questions in the room? All right. Alvin Chin, fire away, brother.
Hey, Dave. Hope you can hear me. I'm calling from Chicago. Cell phones. It's hard to tear the teenagers away from cell phones. What's the plan there? Do they bring cell phones and chargers, or do you recommend they bring them, turn them off, shove them in the backpack, and then not touch them for the whole week?
Yeah, great question. I'll repeat the question. The question is, what about cell phones? Those things that kids cannot live without. We recognize they will probably bring them. What I tell them is, there's nothing you can do with it down there. If you want to, I mean, I have a lot of kids that like bring it and they bring, headphones to play music or whatever, so they can go to sleep at night. Fine. That's fine. A lot of kids will bring it to take pictures. If you want to do that, that's fine. I would highly recommend it goes into airplane mode as you get to the border. Many carriers these days have an international plan that's included. Not all of them. And so if your kid uses their phone down in Mexico like they use it here, and they're getting pictures, Snapchats, if they're getting texts from friends with pictures, or they're on Instagram and it gets pushed to their phone, that is all data, and you may hit a cap. My plan, I'm on Verizon and they limit me at like I think it's a gig a day max that I can use. And then they choke me down to almost nothing. So it's not even worth it. I end up paying for bigger and bigger plans because I update the blog every day. And so I'm uploading photos and videos to that blog all the time. So there's no reason for them to have it. They can bring it. They can use it on the bus going down and coming back if they want to stay in touch with their friends that way. In camp, I don't really want to see it. So if they want to keep it in their tent, and most of the time, students on the trip don't want it. In all honesty, the students actually love the face-to-face time that they get with each other without using it. So we, in the evenings, after our evening meeting, we have kind of a big tent. You can't really see it here. It's those orange straps going down to the posts in the bottom. It's a huge circus tent that is there. And that's kind of an open space in the evenings. We have tables and chairs. We put snacks out in the evening and lollipops and cookies and stuff. And they all sit around these tables and talk and play games and share. And they never worry about their phone all week long. If for whatever reason, and I ask students, just leave it at home if you don't need it. Like, it's best for it. You don't have to worry about it getting broken by your friends stepping on it in your tent, which has happened, or you losing it and feeling like someone has stolen my phone now, someone has gone into my tent, and which can happen. We're not, we don't have guards on every single tent. So that has happened in the past as well. If you don't feel like you need your phone, just leave it at home. You will have a better week for it. It'll ease of mind for you and for everybody. Hope that answers your question, Alvin. Any other questions? Online, just use the hand raise feature. There's some, Miley.
Hi, Dave. I just wanted to confirm my understanding. Do all of the teams work in the same geographic area of Tijuana, or are they split up into different areas?
Good question. Do all teams work in the same geographic area of Tijuana, or are they split up into various locations? I ask Amor every year to put us as close as possible together, and they are usually really good at that. We sometimes will have one or two that are like 3 or 4 blocks further out, but it's not like 3 teams are on one side of Tijuana and 5 teams are on another side of Tijuana. They put us in the same general geographic location. Here, let me go back and show. Let me see if I can figure out how to do this. Yep, here we go. Let me pull up a map again. If you can see this map. So the clusters of like the yellow dots and the blue dots are where we have built homes in years previous. And so you can see they are pretty well on kind of on top of each other. You can see there's some that are a little further away. Quite often we will have 2 or 3 houses that we're building on the same road, kind of a thing, or they're in a 4-block geographic region. Last year, it was like within 4 blocks, we had all of our houses, and that's ideal for us as well. Let's get back to the end of my presentation here. There it is. Other questions? Yeah. Water. Okay, go, well, fire, what's the second one as well?
About how many kids you think are going to come this year?
Okay, water. So Amor Ministries provide, in camp, we have a huge, it's like a 150-gallon water tank that fits to our hand washing station. So that's where kids brush their teeth, wash their hands. For the showers, there is non-potable water, and we remind them of this on a daily basis. Do not, like when you are at home in the shower, you may get sick from it. So we have potable water that is in adequate supply. Amor has additional like big jugs, like the igloo coolers of water available in camp for people to drink. Yeah, water bottle filling and all of that. And then each team is given 5 gallons of water and 5 gallons of Gatorade to take out to their job site every day. And if they go through that, we're happy to provide more for them. And we encourage, like, drink as much as you can during the day, because dehydration is a huge issue that we face. So that's the water situation. And how many students do we get, was your other question? Right now we have about 80. We're anticipating taking about 120 students with us this year. I've taken up to my biggest year in 2019, we had 225 students with us. 2020, we had like 260, and then we had to cancel. Yeah, which wasn't any fun. Other questions? That's another hand.
meals, how meals work, and what types of meals for picky eaters?
Yeah, meals and what type of meals and how does that work, especially for picky eaters? So it is a hot breakfast, which will quite often consist of scrambled eggs. There's a tortilla. Refried beans are at every meal, along with tortillas at every meal. There's quite often some sort of breakfast meat, whether it's a sausage, chorizo, bacon, something like that. In the mornings, then there's usually fresh fruit available on the side, as well as oatmeal packets and hot water. So if somebody wants to do that, if your kid wants to bring food on their own, they're welcome to bring their own snack food, by the way. That's totally fine. It's not like we don't have to worry about mice or bears or anything like that breaking into tents. So I'm happy to have them bring their own food. If there's a specific Cliff Bar that they really want to bring, great. Lunches then is sandwiches. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are set in a separate station because we know we have people that have nut allergies. We talked and we know who those kids are that have nut allergies. We talk to them. We talk to their team leaders as well, and to determine what level that nut allergy is. So if it's this is really severe, like if they touch a hammer that someone has touched and they had peanut butter on their hands from a PBJ afterwards, and they're gonna react to that, we'll just ask that team, hey, no peanut butter, no nuts on your team, please. Otherwise, there's a separate station for PB&J, and otherwise it's like cheese and lunch meat. So they're making a sandwich, there's chips, there's fresh fruit. Trying to remember what else there is each day, but there's enough that they pack a lunch to bring with them. And then evening meals is more rice, more beans, but then they're doing enchiladas for us. They're doing, there's ground meat to make a burrito. There's spaghetti. It's quite a wide variety. It's really good food. And then in the evening, there's always a fresh salad bar available as well for us. So I'm a vegetarian. I've never had a problem. I've always gotten protein. I've always gotten plenty of food to eat. And we work around food allergies or food preferences. So we have people that are like gluten intolerant type of thing. Well, we've tried, Amor has said before, like, hey, we'll go get you bread. It's really hard to find in Tijuana. They're not like San Diego and California in terms of their level of compliance with trying to help other people with this. So we will bring some bread with us, especially if we know people have a gluten intolerance, things like that. Other questions?
It was an allergy question.
Okay, perfect. Yep. How are the days structured? By minutes and hours? Typically, no, I'm kidding. The question is, how are days structured? So I'll give you kind of a general day. So you'll wake up usually around 6:45. I'll come around and make sure everyone's up and awake. The sun is up by that point. If you adults come with us, we have a barista that will go make pour over Pete's coffee for us, not for students. There is other coffee available for students that Amor provides, but we bring Pete's in Orinda is usually kind enough to donate coffee to us, and we so appreciate it. So you'll get up, you'll get yourself ready for the day, you'll get dressed, you will come make your lunch, make your breakfast, and then we'll tell you to get ready. We usually have a kind of a gathering at about 8 a.m. on our bleachers. We try to get to the buses by about 8:15, 8:30. Buses drive you out to the job sites. We try to get you there by about 9. You work from 9 to about 12. Take a break then from about 12 to 1 for lunch. And we have a kind of a lunchtime discussion. There's questions that are asked and you can share at whatever level you're comfortable sharing with students there. And then you work from 1 to about 3:30, clean up, get back on the bus, come back to camp where you have some free time. You can take a shower. You can take a nap if you'd like to. We have kids that are on track teams that go for runs either in the morning or in the afternoon when they get back to try to stay in shape. Although the work itself will keep you in great shape, especially it'll work your lower back. We'll bring some sports equipment down with us. You can play volleyball, you can throw a football around. Amor in camp brings in a couple people to make street tacos every afternoon. You can go buy tickets to purchase street tacos. There's a guy that makes fresh churros right there in camp as well, and you can buy churros. Amore has a store where you can go buy the ponchos and the bracelets and fresh cold Cokes, all kinds of stuff that they sell down there. And then we'll eat dinner at about 5:30. We have an evening meeting then, usually around 6:30 or 7. And then you're in bed, quiet hours there begin at 10. We want everybody in bed quiet by 10:30 at the latest. And then it starts all over again the next day. Yes. Yes, they can bring additional cash. I think it's like, I'll check with them more and I'll let you guys know, but it's like, usually it's like $1 for a taco or $1 for like a bag of churros. And then if they want to buy a poncho or things like that, the vendors have gotten really creative and they will follow our buses out to the job sites every day and then go up to the teams like at lunchtime and they'll have a tray of like, hey, here's all the jewelry. Here's all the ponchos we have. Do you want to buy a life-size print of an oil print of the Last Supper and all kinds of stuff that you can buy there. The slingshots and yeah, we have students, we make sure they are not buying things they shouldn't as well. And the vendors are usually pretty good about that as well. Other questions? Yeah. How do you apply for a scholarship? When you register, and the question was, how do you apply for a scholarship? When you register, at the end of that registration form, at the very bottom where there's a payment, you can just, there's a button that says, you know, you can either do a full payment, a partial payment, or request a scholarship. And there's a little comment box, and you can let us know, I'd like a scholarship. I need a full scholarship or partial scholarship, and just give us a couple of quick reasons why. So it's pretty easy. Alvin, yes, I see that hand raised.
Are showers optional, or do they have like a set time every 2-3 days to take showers? Or
I didn't hear the end of that question because people heard your question and started cracking up in the room. So I heard, are showers optional?
and if it is, then you know my second part is not relevant. But I'm wondering, is there like a set day where everyone is recommended to take a shower? And
no, they are. We do not force kids to take showers. We encourage it strongly. It feels really nice to take a shower at the end of a day when you've been working hard. I have had people in the past decide I'm not taking a shower all week long, and their friends will sometimes fight them on that, especially their people they're in a tent with. But that's kind of up to them. Amy? Yes, so that, yeah, so we're, the comment here was kids and adults are all wearing bathing suits in the showers. So it's not like Naked Fest in there at all. We're all clothed, and especially because there's other churches there at the same time. There's sometimes a fight to see who can get into the shower the fastest between churches. So thanks, Amy. Yes, Maylee.
Hi. So in terms of the number of adults going this year, do you have an idea of how many are signed up and what your typical adult to student ratio is?
The question is, how many adults are signed up and kind of what am I anticipating and what's the normal adult to student ratio? I don't have enough adults signed up yet. I am hoping that some of you, either on Zoom or here in this room, will hear that and respond to that. So I always try to have 2 adult coaches on every team. So 1 male, 1 female. And then we have other adults that are in camp. I'd love to have a full adult team again this year, but that's dependent on who signs up. I know I will have at least 2 people on a medical team. I know I have 3 or 4 people for a media team. I will have 2 people on camp crew. I will have 2 to 3 people on a tool crew. There'll be myself as a staff member. We have another church, Sierra Press Church, who's joining us. They're going to be building they will bring their own team. Hey, Mike, I see you down there, brother. Good to see you. And they will bring several adults with them as well. So there isn't really an adult to student ratio, but 10 to 15 students on a team and at least 2 adults on every team. Other questions online? Yep.
Do you have many older kids that are going? I know COVID really messed up the realm of this
Yes.
process.
Yeah, I do have some, I have 15 seniors this year that came with us last year. I have other seniors that have signed up that have never been on the strip before, because for the first year, like spring breaks magically aligned. And it works with essentially all of our local schools. I will say this as well, and some of you online, if you have a college student whose spring break lines up, they're welcome to come. I'd love to have college students come on this trip. My son, my youngest, goes to DVC. He's coming as part of the media team this year. So if you have a college student that wants to come, I'd love to have them on this trip, especially if they've been before and know what they're doing. So that would be awesome. Other questions, either in the room or online? Any other questions online?
What are the restroom facilities like? Are they just outhouses, or are they like just curious?
Yeah, the question is, what are the restroom facilities like? They're the nicest pit toilets you've ever seen in your life. So they are pit toilets. They are cleaned every day by Amore. They stock them well with toilet paper, but there is a whole row of toilets, and there are several places kind of around camp. And then out on the job sites, one of the first things that we ask our teams to check on is, what's the bathroom facilities like at your spot? Often the family will have a restroom we can use. Sometimes it's inside and it's a flush toilet. Sometimes it's a pit toilet outside. Sometimes they can go use a neighbor's house, or there's a store around the corner they can go use. So you learn to mouth breathe as you approach the bagnios. Maybe that's enough said. There was another question in here. Yes. Yeah, they have to be valid through April 8th, the date that we come back over the border. Any other questions? All right, I'm gonna, in the chat, let me put up my cell phone number here. This goes to everyone. Yeah, apparently I can't type tonight. There it is. In the chat, that's my cell number. For those in the room, if you would like to text me, you're welcome to. I'm at 925-899-0279. And but I will give you that. It will be in your packing list that you get on teamwork night, so that if anything happens during the week and you need to contact your student, call me, and I will, assuming your child has turned their phone off and you can't reach them, call me and I will go get them. I have a map that I keep in my tent with me of who's in what tent, which is part of the reason why we have them register their tents. I then place them on kind of a grid so I know who's where, and I can go find them in the middle of the night if I need to. So you'll have my cell number. You can get a hold of me at any point, not just because you missed your child though, please, or like their dog wants to say hi. If there's an emergency, death in the family, something's come up and you really need to talk to them, you're welcome to use my cell phone. I sleep with it right behind my head in my tent wall at night with the volume turned all the way up. So if you're online, you're welcome to text me questions. I will stick around for a while, both in the room and then online. If there are additional questions, I'm glad to take them. But otherwise, thanks for joining us.